Hey, we're Attention Trading, a full-service digital marketing agency that helps small and mid-sized businesses with their strategic marketing efforts. From websites, design, social media, and ads, our goal is to create marketing alignment for our clients. You may not realize it, but the majority of businesses lack a solid marketing strategy and plan. That's where we come in. On this show, we talk with business owners, founders, and marketers to uncover the secrets of their success when it comes to starting and scaling a business. This is the Attention Trading Podcast. What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Attention Trading Podcast, where we talk with CEOs, owners, founders, and marketers about how they grow, scale, and operate their business. My name is Max Lowy. I'm here with my co-founder of Attention Trading, Steve Alves. Joining us today is Nicholas Marco, a serial entrepreneur who has grown his portfolio from a single business to 5 distinct brands over the past 10 years, with a total revenue of around $28 million. From his multi-unit, multi-brand franchise portfolio, Nicholas is a powerhouse in the entrepreneurial world. Today, we're going to explore Nicholas's journey, his strategies for scaling multiple businesses, and his passion for inspiring others to embark on their own entrepreneurial paths. Get ready to be motivated, gain some valuable insights from one of the industry's best. Nicholas, welcome to the Attention Trading Podcast.
Thank you, guys. Really nice introduction. I appreciate that. I'm happy to be here and excited to have a conversation with some fellow passionate entrepreneurs local to my community and really my network. We have a lot of mutual connections here, so this is exciting for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're super excited. Honestly, we're stoked to have you on. Someone of your caliber. Again, your age, you're local to me, which is great. Steve is based in Connecticut, but he knows the Asbury Park area well, obviously. So yeah, I'd love to kind of kick this off with a question, really just to let our listeners understand a little bit more about you, who you are, and kind of what you do. So
Sure.
Can you give us a little background and some insight of you?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Toms River, New Jersey, Central Jersey town, and I was fortunate to be a part of my father's business, where he, from the get-go, had a vision to start a new brand and then become a franchise. And that business is known as Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa. And this November, we celebrate the 20-year anniversary of opening our doors. And so that was back in November of 2004. He was a physical therapist for 20 years and just, organically had a passion for massage through his practice. He actually went to people's homes every single day and did home care rehabilitation. So unlike the physical therapist where you go to the physical therapist center, and get PT on site, he actually went to people's homes every day and did PT on them from their knee replacements or their hip replacements or whatever their rehab was from injuries or surgeries. And he was amazing at building a network for himself with all of the doctors, because his whole business was just word of mouth. And, at one point, I think he recognized, wow, massage is an amazing benefit to people's lives that is very much not part of your lifestyle back in, early 2000s. It was more just this experience you had on vacation and the luxurious kind of commodity versus a lifestyle. And so, the idea of having a membership-based massage spa where you get a massage every month and make it more affordable, he knew that was out there, and he wanted to do that business and do it really well. And, he came up with, actually, I got a great brand new car from it by naming the company at 14 years old. But Hand and Stone, which one day I threw my dad the name, and at first he was like, I don't know about that. But he kept talking about this hot stone massage. I'm thinking, you're using your hands, you're using the stones. I'm like, Dad, what about Hand and Stone? And it clicked. He registered the name, and really the rest is history. And so Hand and Stone Massage Spa, now Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa, after my mom pushed him a few years later to do facials and skincare. And it's just insane for me to think that we are now the largest provider of skincare in the entire world. We have over 600 locations when you think about both New Jersey and Canada. And that was 20 years later. And my father has since retired. And I, along the way, was going to Penn State, got a biochemistry and molecular biology degree with the goal and intention of being a doctor. And but always like having that entrepreneurial itch that I think I just naturally have through my father. My father has had many failed new business ventures, and then finally had his big success story at 49 years old. I will mind you, make sure you're aware is he started Hannahstone at 49. So, it's really never too late. And all of his friends told him don't do it because it was very risky, and he had to get investors because he didn't have the money to get it going. Um, and so at some point, I got the opportunity to basically open my own location from scratch. And that was actually while I was in nursing school, because I really do give my dad a lot of credit that he always pushed me to, you know, not be on the track of what you think you're supposed to do. Instead, do what makes sense for you, and work through life smartly. Don't try to just work hard and have this like pride about yourself about how you get there. Who cares how you get there? Just get there. And if you can
Yeah.
get there more effectively and efficiently, do so. And so, we were talking about med school. I was clearly too hesitant to do it because it was like an 8 to 12 year journey. So I didn't even apply after Penn State. And, with his pushing, he was like, why don't you try that nurse anesthetist profession that you learned about through shadowing doctors? And so I got the nursing degree after undergrad, but it gave me this more flexibility in my schedule because now I wasn't this tunnel vision of I'm going to become a doctor. I'm going to
Right.
nursing school, but I'm going to always be aware of what else is going on. And I worked at the Hand and Stone in my hometown. When I was in high school, they would throw me on a plane to do trainings for owners as they did openings because it's a franchise. And I just loved being in this supportive role. I loved how I was, in high school or in college, and I was able to give a corporate executive who then put money into becoming a franchisee advice. And it felt very fulfilling at such a young age to be such a resource for these people. And I loved the business. So once I was able to open my own, I got the itch to go back into the Hand and Stone world. And now I'm a 11 location Hand and Stone franchisee of 11 locations in New Jersey. I'm what's known as the regional developer for the state of Ohio for the brand. So if you were going to buy a Hand and Stone in Ohio, your actual email would come to me, and I would open the door to educating you on that business option and that investment option, and then ultimately sell you the license to open your own. And then I actually support you with my team throughout your whole franchise journey experience. So I know it's like to be a franchisee of a brand. I know what it's like growing up being, the son of a founder for a franchisor. I'm kind of in that franchisor role, being the regional developer for Ohio, and I've now since branched out into other brands because now, frankly, I'm obsessed with franchising, and I just love how if there's a concept or idea, there very well may already be a franchise for it, and then you just have to make the decision of do you want to do it through that franchise or do you want to maybe do it yourself, which is really what my father did, and yeah, obviously was it was a huge success.
Yeah, so that it's interesting because you're now our second franchisee owner or someone that's in that franchise world, and they're the complete opposites, right? So we talked to an owner of Serve Pro, which is mold remediation and junk
Yeah.
and garbage, and you're the luxury, feel good massage therapy. So it's pretty funny how we have those polar opposites there, but both within this franchise world, and it's so interesting because a lot of the other businesses and owners and CEOs that we've spoken to, they have they've come up with like their idea and built it from scratch. And I think there's this idea or this thought that like if you are a franchisee, you're not necessarily building from scratch, but you're still building a
Oh,
business.
absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you could go into like that a little bit more, especially because like the all the nuances, the ins and outs, but like
Yeah.
to start a franchise, like what does it take?
Yeah. Well, so as far as to start a franchise as the franchisor or to start a franchise after signing with a franchisor, you know what I mean?
Let's
Just so
yeah,
I'm
let's
clear.
let's go with after signing. So you found
After
a friend.
signing. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, you go do the discovery day, you learn everything about Hand and Stone, you buy a license to open one in, say, Columbus, Ohio. I have these pep talks with franchisees because I think sometimes they don't realize you now are the CEO of your little company, whether you like it or not. Like you have to be if you want to be successful. And, whether it's one location or you want to have 5 or 10 one day, I do think some people, especially when they first go into franchising, may not have the mindset of like, oh, this is going to run itself, or the playbook's going to be so good that this is going to be not so difficult as far as running a business. And, bottom line is owning a business is difficult and it's a lot of work. There are certainly business options out there that are easier than others. But, if you're talking about a Hand and Stone as an example, the product in my businesses are my people, right? So the most, biggest variable in terms of time and you just don't know what's going to hit you when you wake up that day is having, employees. And so you just don't know what they're going to throw at you. And then also having a lot of clients. And so, I see owners in franchising who don't really have enough structure in how they run their day to day and they don't hold themselves accountable. And then that's where they're not a successful franchise owner because there's just too many cracks, in their own infrastructure. And it's really just in their own accountability. I've had a business coach for years, frankly, out of the fear of me not being accountable to myself. Because as I grew, I felt the pressure of, wow, we're big now. I have a lot of employees that are relying on me. And I don't want to stop this positive momentum of being successful. How else can I proactively add more layers to my own self and my own accountability to make sure that I stay successful? Like, it's 4th of July today. I'm happy to be recording, but this is like rare. Like, I don't usually even not have my Hand and Stone shirt on when I'm home. Like, when I get up every day, a lot of times I work from home because I own so many businesses. I dress the part head to toe as if I'm about to walk into a room with 10 other people. And I get in that mindset. I have a corporate office environment in my own home when I work from home. And I have that mentality. I take being the CEO of my enterprise now very seriously. So I guess I just mentioned that also as a way to, have caution when you're going into a franchise. If you think the franchise itself and the brand and the playbook is going to make it easy, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be easy. Most businesses are not easy to run, or at least they're a lot of work. I think I have a challenge every day in what I do, but I really don't feel like I'm working. I truly have found my passion in being an entrepreneur. I love what I do.
Which makes it feel a lot less like work and more like your passion, right?
Totally.
As for the franchises themselves, and you say like any business owner, as Max and I obviously know, is that every day is a struggle, but you find the love in kind of that struggle. But for the franchisees that want to onboard for this kind of thing, is there a discussion that happens with them? Is some vetting with them that says like, hey, like this is pretty turnkey because we've made everything templatized for you, but this
Sure.
is definitely a business at the end of the day. And do you like vet people for this, or is it basically saying, oh, you're interested? Awesome. You got the cash on hand? Great. Let's get through this.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I definitely, and I learned this from my father, am a much more straight shooter. I don't, and I'm in a unique role where if I sell you a franchise, once you sign, I still talk to you every day. I still have a dialogue with you through my team as well to support you. So, the downside to maybe the franchise sales, setup is most of the time the person that sells you the license that goes away right once you sign. And so, as much as there are brands that vet others better than some of the other brands out there, there's always a vulnerability that maybe there was a red flag or there wasn't enough communication about really what it is that they're getting themselves into, but then they still sign. You can't, perfectly go over everything that they're going to expect, because there is this inherent growth when somebody becomes a franchisee and it's the first time they've ever been a franchisee ever. But if they're making it very clear they don't want to work more than a certain number of hours a week, or they want to keep their very, very demanding full-time job, and it's not a brand where you want to allow that for your owners, it's up to the franchisor to proactively prevent that sale from happening. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. As far as because I mean, you just kind of said it, like when you sell a new business to a new franchisee owner. I mean, you are there and you're supporting and you're talking to them on a regular basis. As far as support goes, I mean, we are, we're a full service marketing agency
Right.
for marketing. Let's just talk marketing from corporate to
Sure.
regional to local. Like, what does that look like? How does that stem down? What kind of support does that uh, franchisee get? And what do they have the ability to do on a localized level?
Right. Well, so really cool little, kind of testimonial of advice that I provided to a franchisor, and then they implemented it, because Hand and Stone, really from the very beginning, always had marketing in house. There was maybe a short period of time where they actually outsourced marketing, but if you can internally have a marketing department for your franchisees, it's a really amazing thing to offer, so that your franchisees aren't in competition basically with some other agencies, other clients. And so I think that that's an interesting strategic role for franchisors if they can make that work. Um, because marketing and sales are everything in terms of running a business. And if your franchisor doesn't have a really awesome playbook there, it is a little bit like you kind of turn your head of like, well, what am I paying these royalties for? Because those are two extremely important departments. So, you always will have to have some kind of vendor, in that marketing relationship. You don't expect the franchisor to handle everything in house, but at Hand and Stone, as an example, they have an entire internal company they call HSM, and you get an account representative assigned to you, and they manage all of the communication with each individual marketing effort, and you approve the budget with them, and you track the performance, and it works really well. And then I have seen a franchisor that has just completely third party relationship, and it's just a matter of how well they manage that relationship, because now they're making the distance between the person that's handling your marketing and you a little bit further away. And so it could just create a little bit more opportunity for some vulnerabilities there, if you will.
Okay.
So Sweat 440, which is only a 20 location brand that I'm a franchisee of, and I just opened my second location. They actually, after having great discussions, the CEO and I brought in marketing in house. They basically just bought a marketing company that they were using and brought them in house, which was really, I think, awesome, because it does just allow for a little bit more control. And so, not a lot of small businesses obviously can't do that, and so you got to find a really good marketing, partner like yourselves. But I think when a franchisor does get to a certain size, they really should consider having at least some kind of in-house bandwidth there.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Now, you just brought up Sweat 440, right? How did you like? How'd you choose that as a new business venture for yourself? The brand again that you just said you just talked to the CEO. It was a very strategic move or a conversation that they were able to do something similar to what you have built over there at Hand and Stone. So, like, what made you
Right.
choose that brand?
Yeah, it was funny. I was just texting my two best friends this morning because they just left Sweat 440 in Tom's River, which is my hometown. I should
Hmm.
almost like find the text because it was funny. But I'm definitely the guy that when I walk into any business, especially if it looks like it's busy, is I always think to myself, do I want to own this? Is this something that I should own, especially if it's doing well? And I love health and wellness. I feel good about my businesses. Like if I sell you hard on anything that I'm selling, it's going to be to get a blowout at DryBar to make yourself look good. It's going to be to get a facial or massage or Hand and Stone, or it's going to be to get a workout at Sweat 440. So I feel good about putting the pressure on to make a sale happen because it's good for you, and it's important now more than ever. And so at some point, of course, having Hand and Stone in my blood and it's my passion, the idea of just more Hand and Stones is very much still potentially on the horizon. But I thought, I love where I am currently very successful, which is primarily in Monmouth and Ocean County. And how cool would it be if where I'm already thriving, I could open another business that might have the same or very similar demographic, and just do well again, and almost be able to cross promote in a way, and share clients, and share my local team, because they can manage now more than one brand. Because in my reality, which is so crazy to me, the original Hand and Stone in my hometown is in a shopping center where the DryBar that I own is the neighbor, and then the Sweat 440 that I own is just about 10 stores down. So I have three businesses in the same shopping center, and all in my hometown. And so, DryBar was after my sister was obsessed with blowouts, so much so that, it was getting my attention. Like, okay, we can consider this as a business. I'm like, but, you really would only want to do DryBar. DryBar is clearly the category leader, but it's not a franchise, Tara. So, like, I just don't think it's going to happen. We're not trying to like start a franchise for blowouts. I don't think the business is that strong. We don't want to try to compete with, a DryBar concept. What they have is pretty magical. And then one day I went on their website, and holy crap, they're a franchise now. The founder of DryBar sold, and they went from being completely corporate owned to now completely franchise owned. And then Sweat 440, I was visiting one of my best friends, Ariana, and she's like the queen of fitness. She works out everywhere. There's not a single concept she hasn't tried. And so she told me, oh, you got to go to Sweat 440, try it out. And I took 3 classes that week. I was hooked. And it took a few months, but I filled out the form, and I thought of my brother-in-law, who was looking to leave being a home inspector and be an entrepreneur in a different business. And we are now co-owners of this mission, really, to just have Sweat 440 take over New Jersey. So we're on the second location, just opened in Ocean Township, which I selfishly am obsessed with because it's 5 minutes from my house, and I love the workout.
That's awesome. Yeah, I drive. I live in Ocean, so I drive by it all the time. I got to get in there and
Yes,
try it out. But yeah, I mean, and it's in the brand new development there, which is exciting because there's excitement around it. So it's really, really cool. And I was going to say, is there opportunity to leverage all the brands together and cross promote? And I think, you kind of hit the hail. Did I freeze there?
You did.
Oh,
so yeah, I'm going with the flow. I know how this goes.
Yeah, sorry. No, I was going to say, I think it's cool that you're able to leverage the clienteles from different, from all the businesses, and even your employees and staff, right? And how they're able to operate or help operations for all the different brands. I think that's really unique in the way that you're kind of building this portfolio of brands.
Yeah, and I have to say, I definitely did it the right way, in the sense of not necessarily intentionally, but I've seen now people like me go from a less complex business to then more complex. I went from more complex in Hand and Stone to less complex, and it allowed for a very, easy transition, in the sense of the skills that I've collected and learned and grown over the years being in the Hand and Stone franchise. Are very transferable to being a successful DryBar and Sweat 440 owner. And so the first year performance of those brands very much is just a testament to all of the success I've had with Hand and Stone, which was so fun. It's, think about how validating that is when you just like wonder, like, am I just good at Hand and Stone because I grew up in it? And, I have the advantage of being really the one involved the longest. And now I can confidently give you the credibility of like, no, I can run now multiple other businesses, and these skills are very much transferable to really any industry, but especially more in health and wellness.
So you've talked about a lot of owning a lot of things, kind of being busy all the time, getting dressed up every single day, like you're going to work even though you're working from home. Can you talk about like the work life balance? Does that exist? Is that a thing for you, or are you just kind of person who's like, hey, like this is my life, my work life balance?
Right, right. Well, I can definitely tell you this is like the 10-year anniversary coming up of me being like an entrepreneur officially. Obviously the other 10 years I was either in high school or going to college, but I officially owned my own business about 10 years ago. And I've worked very hard the past 10 years. It has definitely been nonstop. A little like, I mean, you definitely could call it obsessive. And by no means am I not going to be that way, but I definitely have gotten to a point where, I feel very comfortable in the lifestyle that I want. And I don't want to work unnecessarily too much where I'm not enjoying the ride. I've enjoyed the ride over the past 10 years, but it was definitely more stressful than I want maybe the next 10 years to be, because now I feel more confident to just say no, or, maybe I set myself a goal, but I don't have to literally, achieve it within the next week or the next month. I can just put it on my radar for the next year, that kind of a thing. I'm the type of person that, like, if I have a call with you and we're going over like a plan of action, literally as soon as the call's over, like I'm going. And like I might be up for 12, 15 hours straight, like getting that going. And then I will go to sleep around 1 a.m. and then I'm waking up at 4 or 5 a.m. to keep it moving. Like I sometimes literally run downstairs to my computer. Like I'm an animal sometimes. But there's a trade-off there where like, okay, then like, I'm like, oh gosh, I'm going to burn out. This is getting crazy. So I feel like there are times in life where you really want to work hard for like, but there's a means to an end. But I'm definitely not trying to be the poster child for don't sleep, sleep when you die, that kind of thing. That's not me.
Yeah.
And so I want to like kind of retire maybe a little bit of that craziness and have just a little bit more balance in just my mind, not so much in my actual activities. Like I have a lot of fun. I have good balance, but my mind never turns off. And I want to be a little bit better at, controlling that for just my own health, really, more than anything.
Uh, the mind not turning off, I can 100% agree with that. My
Yeah.
brain is working overtime, all this. So my wife will
Yeah.
inherently go like look at me and go, "What are you thinking about right now?" I'm like, "What do you
Oh,
mean?"
yeah.
She goes, "You look like you are gone. Like you're not
Yeah.
here right now." And I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
"Yeah, because I'm not. Like I could drive for 3 hours." She goes, "You haven't said a word." I'm like, "Oh, I've been talking to myself this
Right.
entire time."
Oh my God. I
So I
know.
completely
I tell
identify with
Mike,
that.
my husband, I'm like, I'm curing cancer up here literally right now. Just like, stop talking. Yeah. Yeah. It's wild.
I love that. So like that kind of parlays into my next question for you is that, I'm big on education. So self-education, always pushing myself to learn a little bit more, get a little bit deeper in a given subject. Are like what do you do? What tools do you do to kind of advance your education, your knowledge in any given space, entrepreneurship, the individual businesses you're in, literally anything?
Yeah, I'm like the sicko that falls asleep with my headphones on, listening to an inspirational video on YouTube about anything related to business advice. So I definitely, and I say this to people to motivate them, like forget the college degree or these formal programs as much as I'm all about them. But the beauty is you don't need them to be
No, I don't.
really self-taught in almost anything. And if you can't find the article or the video, pick up the phone and just talk to somebody that's an expert after you find them on LinkedIn. Like I have no shame to ask questions. Like I use every opportunity for people to interview me to interview them. I'm a sponge. There's something you can get out of everyone you talk to, whether they're, the low end of the totem pole, entry level, or they're the founder and CEO. There's just always something to learn. So I love going to conferences. I love networking. I love getting in front of people. You really do, I think, have to make a connection with people initially in person if you can, because it goes a long way. Um, but I've just been always obsessed with learning, always, and I try to make that a culture in my team, and I think that's how it creates my ability to be more flexible and have so many things going on at the same time. Is I teach people to be obsessed with learning and solve problems versus relying on me to solve all of them for them, because then I can literally
Mm.
never get away. I can never have my own freedom.
So you said you had a business coach, or you've had a business coach in the past.
Yeah,
Do
still
you
have one.
have
Yep.
okay, as far as like any other kind of group support, you talked about networking, whether that's specific kind of groups or anything like that. Like, what is there anyone or any group of people that you continue to work with that do help you with your day to day, whether that's for business, personal, and also help to like inspire you to inspire your team?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely love the camaraderie I have in the top franchisees of Hand and Stone. We have a really amazing just bond, and they either came from an impressive background, or even some of them do still have a job in some capacity outside of just being an owner, because they have that infrastructure skill set where they know how to build a team. So I've learned a lot through the executives and management team of the Hand and Stone corporate team. I'm on the board of the Multi-Unit Franchise Conference, which is really one of the largest franchise conferences in the U.S., where people that are multi-unit owners or wanting to be multi-unit owners, they usually go to that conference because it's catered to them specifically. So I feel like, okay, I'm like this, multi-unit owner with my 11 locations, and then I'm on a board with somebody that has over 1,000 locations of multiple brands. And so it's very humbling, but it's also very motivating to pick their brain. They went through maybe multiple transactions where they sold their portfolio, and then they got involved with a new portfolio and grew that. So I've been a subscriber to Cultivate Advisors, which is a great service where I've now had two different business advisors where I'd have and I still do, a biweekly call. And that call is really just, I'm kind of a good student, right? I kind of set the scene of the call when it begins, where I'm reflecting on what did I want to achieve from 2 weeks ago? How did I do? How am I progressing? And then here's a few things that I sometimes just want to talk out loud with somebody that I know understands it, or I genuinely want their input and advice, and we have good dialogue there. So I will say, and sometimes feels like a little annoying because I feel like I need to like suck out somebody else's time, selfishly to get my idea to the next step. But I'm a brainstormer through verbal dialogue. I have to talk it out. It goes a long way versus me trying to like figure it out independently. So I feel really fortunate to have so many people, really. And my father was always the first one where, I'll literally sometimes talk to my dad, he'll start talking, and then I'll just like hang up with him, like, oh, it's exactly what I needed. Thank you, because he'll just challenge me on something. And I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that. Good thought. So, it is funny when you don't pick up the phone or rely on these resources, you're just wasting a lot of time, because if somebody already figured it out, ask them, because why do you want to figure it out yourself the hard way? I've done that enough, and I love being the guy for other people to save them the heartache. Like, I love being the guy being like,
Oh
listen,
yeah.
I've done this. I'm telling you right now, you could do it, but like, I just don't think it's worth it. I've been there. Just do it this way. I trust me here. And when they do, it's like, it's so fulfilling. I'm like, wow, what took me 12 months, you just did in 3. Like,
Mm.
that's so cool, so fulfilling. It makes the 12 months I went through worth a little bit more. you know
Yeah.
There's definitely value in the struggle, right, to some degree, but
Sure.
not everything should be a huge struggle to try to figure that thing out,
No,
right?
yeah.
Um, and I think the idea of reciprocity is great. Like the fact that you're willing to give and and feel that you could receive from a lot of people to get whatever you're doing done a lot faster is solid. My motto, and I think this comes up in every single podcast we do, is like I grew up in a professional space where I didn't get a lot of help from above, right? Like it was very much gatekeeping for a lot of the time. So like
Okay.
my motto, having moving forward outside of that position, was like every time someone has any sort of any advice or help in a given subject matter, like I just give as much as I possibly can. Because I think that's the only way that people around you grow and that you professionally grow. Like the more stuff that
Right.
I can get someone else to do at a higher level allows me to grow faster above where I currently am, so I can stop doing that stuff and
Hmm.
or just generally giving them some help and advice. And so that kind of leads me into our next question of like, what's your advice for someone who's looking to build as an entrepreneur, build a business, build a franchise? Like, what would you give them as insights as a starter?
If you can find a mentor who legitimately is invested in taking that role seriously and not just like, yeah, call me whenever, but like will actually be maybe a little bit of accountability for yourself, will follow up or maybe even just schedule a routine call, that may be the way to get where you want to go a lot faster. Starting my own podcast called The Opportunity Coach, and really just the whole idea of even that name is that I see every problem as an opportunity, and it's my mindset that I think that leads to my success. It's been fun just even launching that podcast, that it felt like it opened the door for people that I know to more formally come up to me and say, can you help me get from like this idea to at least like an actual business?
Yeah.
And I am that guy. Like I will tell them, anyone that comes up to me that's even a friend, like I take it seriously. So, and I also, don't really want to be a part of like this casual conversation. Like if you legitimately want me to be a part of pushing you to that next level, I will be that for you. And so, I have friends that, got out of their corporate role and now they're opening their third location in a franchise, all by just having a conversation with me. And they're killing it. And she's so happy that she's now a mom with so much more freedom and independence. I have a cousin that, now has her own bridal boutique. And, I invested in her to get her off the ground because I just knew she was going to be a success because she was so successful in her wedding event planning business. She's a good worker, has great work ethic, and she's doing a great job. So, it, it's harder if you don't maybe in the first 10 minutes think of who that person could be for you. But there are also amazing services out there that are literally business coaches. And, I feel like if you might need that to kind of keep you progressing, there's no shame in it. But I also think even if you just talk to people like me to give you a little bit of more confidence that, because most people you talk to will not really give you much motivation to make this happen. Just like with my dad at 49, everyone was like, what are you doing? Like, you have a great job in being a physical therapist. Your
Yep.
family is stable. We literally put, his investors, it wasn't enough money. So we had no idea as kids, but the entire company was on a home equity line of credit. And I will never forget the day that the appraiser came to the house, because what that appraisal value of our home was going to be was going to make or break how much, equity he could pull out of the house. And like I remember her like making a comment about like our goodnight pool, and she was like, nowadays pools don't add to home value. And my dad was like, what do you mean they don't add to home value? Like he was freaking out. And like it was just a very stressful day that day, like watching my dad walk around the house with the appraisal. And we didn't know. And so he kind of, he kudos to him. He hid all of the financial stress that he went through in building this company, but he just always believed in himself, and he found the right people. And it definitely takes a village. So I just love when, young entrepreneurs especially want to take the leap. And so if, at the very least, just do it, and talk to people that genuinely care. There are a lot of people out there that are like that. And I found that through the franchising world. Like once you enter the franchising world, you're surrounded by entrepreneurs, and they all have a mindset that you're like, wow, I didn't even know this world existed. And now it's like
Yeah.
commonplace for me, you know?
Yeah. It's
Having those resources is killer.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
I can't help but notice that like the story about the appraiser is almost feels like episode one of a 10 episode series on Netflix. Like that's
Hmm.
how it starts, right? Like that's the opening
Oh, I
scene.
love that.
Like, what do you mean
Yeah.
a pool doesn't add value to this home?
Right.
Dum dum.
Right. Yeah. That's good. I like that idea.
could be something. So like we generally like to ask this question of everybody we talk to, right? Because I think it's a through line for just being human. I think back to where I currently am, having being 37, and the successes I've had, Max has had over the years, and thinking back to like when I was 12. Like, do I think 12-year-old Steve would be doing what 37-year-old Steve is doing today? And so the question to you is, do you think, 12-year-old Nicholas would be doing what you're doing today in 2024? Do you have any idea?
No, not at all. I was like definitely the typical, I'm good at science. I did very well in high school and school in general. I was the goody two shoes to the teachers, and I drove my parents nuts. But I was going to be a doctor, and like that was just the route, that made sense. And the idea of being like uh, just a advocate for any kind of public speaking opportunity or coaching opportunity, even just to have a podcast where I'm now even having an episode where it's just me with solo content and I have all of this information to share. I was quiet, I was shy, I was uncomfortable in my own skin, all of the things. It was terrible. I had, you know, I had this terrible acne in college, and I basically never wanted to leave my dorm room. Like there was so much of my whole story that I had a 180 moment. And once I just loved myself and saw that I felt like I had so much to offer, it just frankly the opportunities just keep coming. And what I don't like when people say people can't change, because I'm a huge believer in people can, whether it's early in life or late in life. And so I think that I certainly would have never expected me to be where I'm at this stage in my life in terms of this many businesses. When I opened my second Hand and Stone, it was so scary to me to own two. Now if I wanted to own 20, I wouldn't be intimidated by the workload. It doesn't triple and quadruple and, multiply by 5 times. It's just more structure, more good people, more process, more
More
playbooks.
opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think that anybody that just sees somebody and wants to be in some capacity doing what they're doing, and then they think there's no way in hell that can be them, they're just selling themselves short. Because I've met so many incredible people that have had the worst upbringings and background, and they're the ones that are the most impressive.
Yeah. Can I just want to add to that. Was there a moment that, because you just said you were the shy, really timid kind of person growing up. Like,
Right.
was there a moment, did something happen where you were just like, you know what, I need to make this change. I need to flip a switch. Like, did something happen, or was there a
Yeah.
conversation? Like,
Sure. But to be completely honest, being gay and coming out to my family was literally that 180 moment, because I was so scared and just so like I hated myself. And the day that I basically opened the door to that being, what I was going to tell my father, he threw me in his Mustang convertible, drove over the Seaside Bridge, and parked the car in a parking lot, and just went on a just long monologue about what unconditional love is, and how if this is what you're struggling with, I want you to know it doesn't matter, and I love you so much. And the whole weight off my chest, shoulders, my whole body was just gone, and it just changed.
That's
Yeah,
a good dad right there,
that's
man.
that's it.
That's
so
killer.
It's so it's such a good story, like of
Yeah.
how that and why that happened. I
Yeah.
love that.
And
Yeah, I
Oh
that's
was just
man.
episode
on
4 of that
that's
Netflix
it. That's
series.
it. That's it. Yeah. And it's
Man.
crazy to even think my husband and I's wedding was just on, that crazy show Real Housewives of New Jersey, and my cousin Joe, who's this big macho Italian guy, always wants to talk about the ladies, that he was our wedding officiant. And the reason why he was our wedding officiant was he was such a huge also force for me to just love myself and just be so proud of who I am, because I was so scared to tell him. And when he found out, he ran up to me and was like so excited and just so proud and just so happy for me. And that's what happened for me, is my family, which I didn't think they were not going to accept me, but I was just very scared. They celebrated and like applauded me. Like they treated it as if it was an accomplishment, because they knew it wasn't easy to do. And I was like very appreciative of that, because it was not easy to do. And it felt really, really validating for them to have recognized, like, okay, you were holding and carrying this burden, and we are so proud that it's no longer, on your shoulders, and let's celebrate now life, because we basically didn't realize all of these years we weren't really seeing you for who you really were. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
That's
awesome.
a that's an amazing full circle story, man. Like the fact that we have these real conversations with people, and it's always framed in the eyes of marketing and entrepreneurship. But at the end of the day,
Right.
like all this boils down to is just people, right?
That's it.
Like the work we do, people with people for people. Like it's all about the human element. And
That's
that's
it.
that really rounds you out really well. I really appreciate that story.
This was
Yeah.
the
No, thank you.
best
I'm
full
feels good.
circle kind of conversation that we've had.
Good.
This was
Good.
awesome. And
Yeah,
honestly, like
I was not expecting that to come out on this conversation. So it's
I
but
wasn't.
it's and like, yeah, it's my true authentic story. Like I was if I said something else, I would not be being truthful. So I'm giving you my whole authentic truth. That was my 180 moment.
No, and we so much appreciate it. And I
Love
think
that. That's so great. I do have one more question. Let's see. One second, Max. We definitely need to get him better internet. I have
Yes,
one more
I know. I'm
question,
about
and
to
this
send
is
you a guy, Max. Like I swear, like you're down the street. I'm about to
this is
like
crazy.
I can make something happen for you. Yeah.
I'm just intrigued because and I know this is a really random question at the end of a podcast. I knowing that we work a ton, are you a coffee drinker? Are you a tea drinker? Or are you an energy drink drinker? Or nothing
Oh,
to have this much energy?
I'm obsessed with coffee. I still consider maybe getting into the business, because I just think to myself, this
I'd
is a
love to.
big
I would love
addiction.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Drinking my iced coffee today, because I think at some point once summer comes, I really do shift. Even though I like a hot coffee, I am the kind of crazy guy that in the middle of July will get a hot coffee, because in the morning it
That's
like
me.
warms you up a little.
Yeah.
I do love tea. I drink the Celsiuses, but it's so funny. I will literally grab a Celsius and I'll pour it in the smallest cup ever, because I cannot drink more than it just gives me palpitations. Things are crazy.
Oof.
Even just the fact that they're
Yeah.
so yellow, I think to myself, like, what am I drinking? Yeah. So I'm a hardcore coffee drinker. I love coffee. So
Also, this is interesting because I went to TWA, like right outside of JFK, to stay over the night, and I worked out in that gym that's down there. And I was like, oh, I really need something to drink, and I had never seen Celsius before.
uh-huh.
I was like, oh, I'll get that. I was awake till like 3 a.m., like
Right.
buzzing on that thing.
Well, it's basically a pre-workout. If you read the label, it's really not.
Yeah.
You really shouldn't just drink it. You're supposed to like go for a
Oh
run.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like kind of crazy.
So Nicholas, as
Go
far
ahead,
as
Max.
local coffee, do you have a favorite?
I will. I love Bouscardu. I could walk there from my house. It's right up the street.
Yeah.
And I love their black and tan. So it's cool. You can get like a dark and a light roast together, which is fun. I'm a big cappuccino guy. So usually when I get coffee, I get a cappuccino. And then shout out to the Saint Laurent. They just keep changing my life. I could literally go across the street and get a iced coffee from their little. They have like a little stand by the pool in the summertime, and
Yeah.
their coffee is excellent as well. But I like it all. I mean, I have had probably Dunkin' has been in my body more than them all. but
It's a go-to.
I like them all. I drink them all. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I originally asked because when you were talking about walking into a business and you're like, "Can I own this business?" Every mom and pop shop that's a coffee place, like we have a place called not High Voltage that's near you or was near you guys. Anyways, there's just local businesses down here where I am, and I walk into them and I'm like, oh, I could so own this. This is
Yeah.
so cool. It's such an easy product. Like, and there's some science behind the actual water. Max and I had just researched it years ago. And we're
Right.
like, it'd be such a cool business. I just feel like it's a little saturated in some markets. So,
Yeah.
it's a good idea.
Yeah, but Starbucks and Dunkin' need some more competition. And what's cool is there's a lot of awesome franchise concepts out there. They just, I will tell you, in New Jersey, and I'm sure Connecticut too, we don't get the hot concepts right away. We're kind of not last, but we certainly aren't first. And it's surprising. Like, I don't really have an explanation for it. I think it's just a lot of less commercial real estate opportunity and development. Like the shopping centers in New Jersey, most of them are just nowhere near as nice in other states, especially even in the Midwest. So when you have a brand new shopping center and all these tenants, that's where the franchise brands flock. Jersey, it's just hard to find real estate. So we just don't get all these cool franchise options that are actually out there in coffee. But I've never seen them in Jersey. So.
Yeah, I can't agree more, man. And we greatly appreciate your time, your commitment to doing this with us, and having the full-fledged story. This is the opportunity to plug all your things and tell everybody about the URLs and the socials and stuff. Please, by all means.
Yeah, I would just say for now, I'm really starting to embrace my social media more in a professional manner. So just my Instagram is @NicholasMarco_CEO. And, there's then a link to drive you to other places. In terms of promotion, I'm just most proud, of course, to own my Hand and Stone massage and facial spas in Monmouth and Ocean County, primarily. DryBar, which is for women's hair. Sweat 440, which is an amazing HIIT workout for 40 minutes. Classes start every 10 minutes. And then my podcast is The Opportunity Coach. And I've been so passionate and just so obsessed with profitability and cash flow in businesses that I started a company called Free Cash Flow Advisors, where I will be basically much more than just a bookkeeper for you and your business. And I have considered and started to open the door to taking on clients outside of just owning franchises. So, give me a shout, and you just never know where that network and conversation will go.
Great. Well, Megas, thank you again for so much for being on our podcast. We really appreciate it. Generally, it's a little bit longer than normal, but hey, that's where the conversation takes us.
Not, right?
And we will take the advice of getting Max better internet in our next episode.
Yes.
But thank you everybody for listening. Appreciate everybody.
You got it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening. Feel free to reach out to us for all things marketing at attentiontrading.com.